have a great set of panelists with me who are building something wonderful with the help of AI, and they'll further tell you how you can further use it for future enhancement. So before I delve into the question mode, I think two of our speakers are still joining. So I'll quickly give the mic to each one of you to introduce yourself and also talk about your journey in the AI domain so far. I'll start with you first.
Hey, hi, I'm Umesh, CTO for Pocket FM. At Pocket FM, we are using AI both on the writer side as well as for the end users. On the end user side, its focus is mostly on improving their engagement. Whereas on the writer side, there are a lot of interesting things we are doing. We're keeping complete story, control of the stories with the writers, but enabling and helping them write faster and better with the help of AI. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm late. My name is Satya. I had technology at a company called Infra.Market. So we are a building materials platform. So we supply materials like concrete, steel, tiles, wood, electrical products. So pretty much all categories that are needed in any construction project we supply. Been about 6.5 years. Part of the journey was solving for a very fragmented industry, right? So there is no transparency in price discovery or quality, reliability. You know, what you think, take it for granted in a consumer market. You place an order for food today, you place an order for grocery, you know exactly how long it's going to take and where exactly is yours. But in building materials, it's extremely complex, right? You're unsure. And then no wonder why projects get delayed, quality suffers, and concrete is one of the perishable products. You have to consume the product once it's manufactured within 90 to 2 hours, right? 90 minutes to 2 hours. So a heavy truck need to be transported across the town. With all the traffic restrictions, it has to reach the site. So we basically solve the tech problem in end-to-end journey, like from procurement to the consumption of the concrete, delivery of it, in guaranteed service to them. If there is a quality problem, how do you rectify that? So everything goes through it. So one of the few players in the market which started with a tech-first agenda here.
Okay. Yeah, Avinash.
Hello everyone. I'm Avinash, head the technology for a company called ElasticRun. We provide logistics solutions. So in a simple way, we want to be the leader providing point-to-point B2B logistics solutions, cheapest, most reliable, and fastest. Right? So how do we plan to achieve the second part of the question? It's AI everywhere. I think the last 1 year, the way we have pivoting compared to the traditional organizations is, can we really democratize the entire ecosystem of the logistics? So what it mean by democratization? So there are 3 elements to it. One is the warehouse space, where you have to move the goods from one place to another, right? Then first mile, middle mile transportation piece. Then the last mile riders. So these are the 3 important resources. So we want to Uberize that. Basically, if any housewife has a 2-hour time, she can be either a rider. If any of the households in India have 100 square feet, can they really be part of a small warehouse? And that's how, and that is possible because of the AI, because that makes the thinking by the system, and only where the biological execution, physical movement is needed, at least for now, that's where the people come in place. Hopefully that will also get sorted in few years. Yeah, that's about AI journey.
Great. I am Himanshu. I am the co-founder of AI Palette. At AI Palette, we are building the future of food and beauty industry. And essentially what we do is we help the CPG companies like Nestle, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola to identify next product or next marketing campaign to launch in the market. And obviously, as we have AI in our name, we use AI for it. AI for us has also evolved quite a lot from being traditional statistical model to LLMs to Gen AI to agentic AI. So during the course of our discussion, we'll talk about that. So that's in short.
Hello everybody, it's great to be here. My name is Karthik. I am the general manager and country head for ElevenLabs in India. I've been with this company for about 3 months now. ElevenLabs is company, very simply put, we make AI sound human. We do that by solving for audio intelligence, build frontier models, audio models that powers a variety of platforms and use cases from customer support to sales automation to content creation to several others. So yeah, that's very briefly what we do.
Hello everyone, my name is Vipul. I am Group SVP of Engineering in TestMu AI. So we provide end-to-end test authoring and test execution with the test analytics platform where Fortune 500 large enterprises, they basically test their web application and mobile application on our platform to ensure the quality and the experience of their product is top notch. We have also launched AI agents for test generation so that without knowing the knowledge of programming language or any testing framework, you just pass over your intent and objective to agent and it understand the agent and it find out the best execution path and generate the test cases so that you can do the coverage of your application.
Okay, thank you, Vipul. So I'll first come to you, Karthik. I mean, ElevenLabs
Sure.
has been operating in India for quite some time, but what have been the challenges like in operating in a market which is very multilingual?
Yeah, so I think I think it's been a unique advantage for us that India is multilingual, multi-dialect, and just the linguistic complexity that we have in the country is just incredible, and that's a hard problem to solve. And I think thus far, ElevenLabs has kind of solved it. When you look at ElevenLabs as a company, right, like India is the largest enterprise market for ElevenLabs outside of the US and the fastest growing as well, right? Like we've had any sort of meaningful go-to-market presence for about 4 to 5 quarters, but we already have like hundreds of customers, tens of millions of revenues and growing really quickly. We're growing our teams in India as well, right? So the beauty about voice is like if you look at any interface, right, it makes certain inherent assumptions. It assumes that you can read, that you have a certain degree of literacy. It assumes that you can use a touch screen. It assumes that you can walk through a 15-step flow on an app that in a language that's not yours, right? Which essentially means that it just keeps out a large population of India, right? Because like for the smartphone urban population, it's great. AI works well, and our guardrails and our digital rails work well. But we're excluding a large part of the population, right? But with voice, that does not make any of these assumptions. And when voice AI is done right, it structurally unlocks a lot for like the 400 million Indians who want to interact with technology in their language, in their dialect. And that is the problem statement that we're trying to solve for India.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I'll come to you, Umesh. I mean, backstage we were discussing about how audio platforms are also being reinvented through voice AI and other modules. So tell me more about how this is further being reinvented.
If you look at AI journey for Pocket FM, there are 2 parts to it. First part is obviously on the end user side. How do we get right content in front of right users? Given we are in multiple countries, multiple geographies, multiple languages, bringing relevant content to relevant users is extremely important. And over the time, we have gotten really good at it. It shows in our numbers now. On an average, end user spends like 140 minutes on the platform. So that's insane kind of engagement we are able to achieve. But the more interesting work we are doing is on the creator side. We have 300,000 writers on the platform. So we are able to, and a lot of these are writers who have great stories, but they don't have writing skills. Most of them are first-time writers. And that's where our AI suite has been extremely helpful. We have built studio with which, writer studio with which first-time writers are able to write full-fledged stories. And our stories on our platform are long-form content. They are like 300 to 500 hour long stories. So it takes a lot of skill. We are trying to get the story arcs from the writers, but we are providing them with all the tools to write those stories. Once the writing part is over, we also help them convert them into audio stories. And that way they are reaching to millions of users. Some of the first time writers are able to make 50 lakh per year now. So that's been huge story. So writers are still at the center, but AI Suite has been massively helpful, making those stories realized and also take it globally to millions of users.
Sure. Just to follow on to it, I mean, how do you ensure that AI is only used as a tool and not as a main medium to further build on that content?
That boils down to the organization philosophy, and then what are the core pillars around which the organization is built. So for us, transparency and human in the loop are extremely important. The way we look at it is AI, the storytelling is and will continue to be human endeavor, but AI can act as AI can help in scaling and accelerating the overall process. So the way we have built the tools, they help them, as I was saying, first time writer, they can start with the arc, but they don't know how to break into episodes. They don't know how each episode needs to start with a high note and end in a cliffhanger. Sometimes you want to expand some of the scenes or compress some of the scenes. All of that AI helps them, but throughout the process, writer is in the control. So writer continues to be author of the story, not the AI. And even writer economics we have built that way. So AI-enabled writer versus non-AI writers, their incentives, everything is exactly the same.
Interesting. Satya, I come to you. You also operate in a very traditional market, I mean, very infrastructure construction driven. So how is AI helping you bring efficiency to the entire business?
Great. So, like every industry, building materials industry is largely a very heavily human driven, right? A lot of people are extremely involved. It's a physical product. Obviously, in every stage of the manufacturing process, there are humans involved. And supply chain is one of the hardest problems in India, particularly around when you are moving large materials, right? Efficiencies are very, very hard to get. So first layer of a problem for any AI enabling endeavor is basically data. So we all started with the first thing, like every generation, we did the workflows sorted first. If you don't digitize the work, data is not going to flow through your system, right? So we've evolved over time. So over a 6-year journey, it started with the basic stitching the workflows together, collecting data, building data, then identifying efficiencies through it. Now, effectively, the AI space has matured enough with enough data within the system. It's able to make every persona within this workflow highly efficient in terms of organizing their day. A sales officer who meets lots of customers in a single day, we make their work day very, very efficient. In the, particularly around any sales, anybody who's in sales will know that they have a very complex problem of meeting a lot of customers, collecting and meeting their targets this month, convincing a customer with the quality of the product. Every step AI is very, very useful for them. It guides them saying that, okay, you are 5 customers away from meeting your target, and these are your 5 customers that you should meet. You have a very high probability of converting these guys, and it has efficiency of data with it. Even though this sales guy is not the same person who sold it to that customer before, it knows the stage of the construction and says that, hey, there is a likelihood that they are in need of this material at this stage of this construction. And in the next 15 days, if you go meet and make a right pitch, you would likely to close. Now, all of this is data driven. It helps the person becoming more productive. Similarly, on the supply chain side, visibility being available, predictability, what's the time it will take for the material to get delivered to the site, so that I can plan the site, I can prepare the site, right? I can make the machinery ready, I can make the labor ready. If the material doesn't come, project is going to stop, right? So bringing these efficiencies, building through an AI predictable model is what it is the first problem solved.
Sure. Avinash, coming to you, you are also making the supply chain efficient, typically in the semi-urban rural areas. So tell us more about that. How is AI helping you do that?
I think one of the challenge with India's what we call Bharat is the deep rural areas. If you look at it, almost few years back, the GDP was growing very slow. Now the trend has become very different. And if you see the forecast and the current growth rate, so compared to tier 1, tier 2 cities, the GDP is expected to grow multifold. Now that creates its own demand, right? One of our main offering line was, how do we ensure that some of the greatest of the brands, FMCGs segments, whether it is ITC, Marico, how do we ensure those great products can reach to the deep rural areas? Because none of the brands want to build a connection pipeline. It doesn't make sense because the ticket size will be small. It's a far deep and wide. So how the AI and the supply chain network, what helped us is, it's a multi-brand network with the right estimation. Right? So from a rural Kirana guy to the rural distributor hub, so they don't have to really know the data science or forecasting algorithm. So what helps is based on the dynamic of the city, the festivals and other aspects. He just needs to take a picture and video. The demand generation algorithm helps them to say that, no, there's a festival going to come, it's a rain going to happen. So why don't you buy more umbrellas? And then he can place the orders. So we made it very simple, right? So there is this festival happening, there is this oil getting sold too much in the next village. I think you should stock the oil here also because you're going to have a festival soon. Something around that. And these simple things helps. See, finally, how it needs to help the people who are touching is they should be able to do their work more efficiently. They should be able to earn more, and it should help their standard of living. And that's the motto for our organization as well, right? How do we really bring this AI to make it a lot more simpler? And because of democratization and Gen AI framework, so now we don't need a significant data science or models on our own to penetrate. And 1 year or 2 years back, if I had to give a forecasting just based on the video, it would have taken me at least 50x more effort for me to build that model. Now it's a lot more simpler. So that's the other value add what we're getting.
Sure. So Himanshu, I'm going to come to you next and ask you about what kind of opportunities do you see in the world of AI in terms of brands, how they are predicting trends?
Yeah, so to be very honest, I think there are multifold opportunities that are coming up thanks to the leverage of AI. But if specifically I were to choose 3 of them, I would say one is around velocity or speed, second is around hyper-personalization, and third is around the autonomous decision making. Let me elaborate on all 3 of them. So firstly, if I talk about the speed, now today, imagine if I am a Pepsi brand manager. I hope there's no Pepsi brand manager in the room, so that I don't offend. But imagine if I'm a Pepsi brand manager and I get this idea of matcha kombucha to launch in the market. That's the idea. For this idea to go from the conception to actual distribution in the supermarkets, it's going to take me 1 to 2 years. And maybe by the time I launch that product in the market, people would have moved on from matcha to some other new trend, right? So that's the hard reality about the brands, FMCG brands specifically, that they are living in decades old market research process while the world around them has changed fundamentally. And I think that's the biggest barrier, the speed. How do you crunch down the time and how can you launch products faster? And that's where we at AI Pilot are leveraging AI to help them in faster decision making and all that, right? So that's one area. Again, there are so many different stages, right, from the discovery to the distribution. And you can pick any of those stages and you can build a startup around it. Secondly, coming to the hyper-personalization, I'm sure all of you would be familiar with Starbucks, and if you go, they write your name on it, right, on those cups. Often they spell it very wrong, but that's a different story. But coming back, that's hyper-personalization in a way. Now imagine if your coffee brand or if your soap brand could be hyper-personalized at your level. It could contain the ingredients which are attuned to your skin tone and skin type, or your coffee could taste with the exact ingredients or the marketing language that you prefer. Not your family, not the cohort of the people who like coffee in Bangalore, but you specifically, right? So that's hyper-personalization. It's basically personalization on steroids, right? So that's the other area which is evolving. In the past, that was not economically viable, but with the help of AI, today you can do that. Today, with the help of Gen AI, I can create a personalized marketing campaign. Right. Similarly, with the help of ElevenLabs, I can create a voice customized for each and every individual. Right. So that's the hyper personalization which is starting to become economically viable, and that's where there are immense opportunities. And last but not the least, the autonomous decision making. Again, the agentic AI is playing a big role there, whether it is fine-tuning your marketing campaign once you have launched it and you are seeing the reaction in near real time, or whether it is about your inventory, or whether it is any other decision that requires a human to be available 24/7, which obviously it can't be. And that's where the agentic AI can help, because the agents can work 24/7. They don't need coffee, they don't need breaks, and they can, based on the logic that you have defined, they can help you in these decision making, which can then give you the benefit at the end of the day, right? So that's again one of the evolving areas of how do you apply agentic AI in near real time to start optimizing your pricing, start optimizing your marketing strategy and whatnot, right? So these are the three areas which I see. Of course, there are many-fold as well.
Sure, thanks. Vipul, I come to you. We spoke about time efficiency and you're using it for testing. So how has it further improvised on the time which you would typically take for testing? And what are the challenges you're currently facing in this?
Right. So if you see traditional QA, how it used to work earlier with the traditional software, it cannot fit with the software driven by AI, because earlier the software used to be deterministic. You give the fixed input, you get the fixed output. But with the AI in the picture, which is inherently non-deterministic, right? You ask AI the same question 2 times and you get 2 different responses, right? Because it depends on the context, depends on the data the model was trained on, depends on the different modality and past behavior, right? So with this, we are seeing lots of shift in the testing process as well for the AI, right? So basically, you have to shift from script-based testing to intent-based testing, right? You do not have to define how to test; you have to tell what to test, right? And at the TestMu AI, we have developed a QA agent called Kane AI, which does exactly same, right? You pass the intent to it, the objective of the testing, and then it finds out the best possible the execution path, right? And which understands your objective, and it helps because if let's say your product behavior change, but it knows the original objective so that your testing do not fail. And another shift that we are seeing here is point in time testing to continuous testing, right? Because in the age of AI, you cannot do testing once and say it's done, because AI adapts, right? It evolves, it drifts, right? So it's very important to basically do the testing at each phase and to be sure that your AI agents is not hallucinating, it's not giving the biased results, it's following the governance, it's not sharing the PII or sensitive data, right? And another shift that we are seeing is functional based testing to basically governance, right? Because given that AI can evolve itself, right? It can basically change its behavior over the time by learning how user is learning the user's behavior, Hence, it becomes very important to uh, test all these aspects of the AI so that to be sure that you are following the compliance and governance as well.
Karthik, I would like to come back to you again and understand in the world of voice AI, I mean, there are a lot of ethical concerns in terms of the misuse of voice AI. How are you helping put some guardrails around it?
No, absolutely. I think the concerns, be it deepfake and the several such are very, very valid concerns, and anybody who trivializes them or dismisses them is being naive and irresponsible. From a ElevenLabs standpoint, I think trust is foundational. We build the governance layers and the guardrails into the platform, and then kind of it's not an afterthought. It's not something that we bolt on top and like everything we do, with the way we design our products, the way we go to market, like trust is foundational, right? And there are essentially 3 guiding principles when it comes to making sure that we have the guardrails that gets implemented to make sure that there is not a lot of misuse happening with the platform. One is obviously moderation. We have human and automated moderation layers that make sure that we're able to catch violations and then flag it off before distribution. That's extremely important to us. The second thing that we also do is essentially have enough accountability built into the system. Misuse needs to have consequences, right? So we make sure that there is end-to-end traceability that gets implemented. Like all the ElevenLabs agents that we have has identity, permissions, logs. There's auditability, right? When it comes to voice cloning, it's explicit opt-in. We want to make sure that we minimize unauthorized voice cloning. We have voice captchas and things like that. We adhere to and support C2PA standards like watermarking, fingerprinting, and important technologies that are extremely relevant. We also have provenance, which is making sure that we have built out our own speech classifier, which with almost 99% precision is able to determine whether an audio content is generated, whether the content or the audio that is generated is AI. Right, so these are some of the things that we've implemented, and it is important that these guardrails are thought through as we build out some of these things, and is not an afterthought, right? Because the implications and the ramifications can be quite serious if we're not able to think through some of these things in advance.
Sure. So Varun, I'd like to come to you. I mean, a lot of audience here are startups. So a lot of people in the audience are largely startups, and if you would like to give some advice in terms of how they can further harness the power and potential of AI, how can they maximize it?
There are 2 parts to it. Obviously, like being AI first organization, one thing we have tried to do is look at every problem ground up AI first, right? I think that's very exciting, and I think most of the startups are doing that today. I would like to talk about the other side, as you mentioned, which is putting right pillars to make sure you can be successful while using AI. And that in our case, it's been mostly around transparency. So every content that we are putting to the end users, we are transparent about which content is AI generated and which is not. Second part is governance, making sure everything is tested both in an automated manner and in some cases there is a human in the loop. And third is for every critical step bringing human in the loop, especially if you are building critical flows, there is creativity, there is policy making, all of those. I think they still require human in the loop. So building those pillars and identifying what those pillars should be for your individual startups is extremely important.
Okay, thanks. So Satya, Avinash, this question is both of you. How are you ensuring that, human skills as well as AI is intertwined to the best of use, best of advantage for your enterprise?
Sure. So, in every step of the human interface that is available, there are certain inherent metrics that exist, right? Some of the metrics are from the context of an organization. The company wants those metrics, right? The company where the person is working for. Or sometimes there are metrics the individual cares for, particularly when it comes down to financial or health, or there are other metrics that exist for every individual. Now, one of the things that we do specifically is to focus on establishing a balance between these two things, saying that the AI is also helping the person improve. There is a very clear intent from the AI to help the personal metrics are met, and in the process there is a correlation between these are your metrics and these metrics how help your company achieve what it needs to achieve, right? By flipping the metric towards the individual, I think the adoption has been much better than seen as other way, because one of the challenges is that most of the people will think that these tools and AI, everything particularly, is a policing tool. If you're establishing, it's looking like, how is it looking at my productivity? How is AI trying to do it? Will it replace me? All these challenges. But the thing that worked for us is when you establish this as a more personal metric, how this can make your metrics go better, what you care for better, and then say the correlation between this to your organization's goals, is when we saw the flip happen. Is something that I would say is a slightly different.
Avinash?
I think I agree with Satya. Right? We have to be very cautious about what we measure. I think we are going through our own turn, especially in software development. The rate of change has been so phenomenal. How do we enroll and ensure that all my team is using AI? Right? One way to measure is just look at the token usage of each of the developers or codes written. But you have to be very cautious as a leader. Whatever we track, it may have a direct correlation with what the team is going to do. So they may end up doing a lot of vibe coding projects, nothing to do with what we have to develop. Right? So how do we measure the individual outcome which is aligning to the organization? That's what also we are debating. I think that's important. Very important is enroll them. Nobody would love to, if you have used AI, Claude especially in the last 1.5 months, it's a magic. So people don't stay away once they get engaged in it, because it makes your life a lot simple. In our organization, what we have also done is I have this philosophy, not just in the tech. I think that's very essential for all of you guys. So whenever we start any task, whether it is legal document review to investors deck to strategy document or brainstorming, first question we have to ask, we're going to have a banners also. Prove AI can't do this work or help us do this work. And that's the question we want to ask ourselves. And there's a framework for everything available. Brainstorming, there is one. There's a council. There are agents which can debate. Free, I think LLM Council is the project. If you Google on it, it will help you debate on anything, any company strategy. How do I use my financials? So there are multiple LLMs fight with each other and give you the results. So hallucination also reduces. So that is one of the frameworks, right? Prove AI can't do this work, and that's what our, especially leadership, to get enrolled and be the demonstrate with our example. Yeah.
Thank you. At this stage, I would like to open the floor for questions. In case any of you in the audience has a question, please raise your hand and the mic will be passed on to you. Can we pass on the mic here to the gentleman?
So, this question for Karthik, ElevenLabs. I encountered a fraud, involved in a fraud where one of the call that came to me had a very same voice as one of my close friend. He asked money and I sent it, and I realized that I was trapped. So, in the use case that you spoke about, how to prevent or what guardrails you have put, how can such incidents be prevented if those actors are using platforms like ElevenLabs?
Firstly, I'm sorry to hear about that. No, I think these things are happening, will continue to happen if we are not going to think about this deeply and deliberately and have enough governance layers built into the platform, right? I can speak for ElevenLabs, right? When it comes to ElevenLabs, we make sure that every agent or every AI agent that ElevenLabs deploys or gets designed on the platform has an identity, has permissions, has access controls, has logs, has eval criteria well defined, so that these things don't happen. Human sounding or making AI sound human is a fairly easy thing to do now, right? But where we got to catch it is to make sure that the detection infrastructure is built into and is not something that is separate, right? So we got to make sure that all of these elements around auditability, to make sure that the way the AI agents communicate, the systems that authenticates them, all of that needs to be built into the product and the platform itself. And that's a journey, and that is something that we constantly think about day in and day out, because as we especially get into regulated industries, like you talked about banking, insurance, healthcare, where the implications or ramifications of misuse is huge, it is absolutely important. And Umesh talked about human in the loop, right? We also need to have very clear hard ceilings on when we hand off to a human agent, right? So those are things that we need to think through very carefully, and that's something that we got to constantly evolve. As these things become more mainstream.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Nitin. I'm an advisory partner with Sapphire Human Capital. It's a leadership advisory firm. I built exec recruiting teams at Amazon, at Uber, before I came into search. My question is more about AI adoption at developer level. So I was in another talk earlier today where a few GCC leaders were talking about top-down approach where you're building governance-based AI adoption and driving productivity through it. But if you look at it from a global tech companies, the large ones, essentially what they're doing is they're trying to drive AI adoption bottom up, where they're having their engineers essentially run their code based on AI and adopt. And some of them have actually brought out as statistics, like for example, the Uber CTO had said that 94% of their engineers are using AI in their code. Of course, there is an issue there because beyond once it leaves human intervention, as it goes deeper into the code base, there are scalability issues and the butterfly effect, which potentially could impact the way it impacts the business and production as such. And Amazon went through that moment where their entire supply chain went into a tizzy. They were not able to keep up with customer promises, and then they went into a 90-day reset and trying to drive governance bottom up. So the question is, for GCCs and in the services companies, it is an excuse to say you live quarter on quarter, so you can't kind of accept sunk cost and write it off on your books because typically your CFO's office is not going to allow you to thrive and experiment if you are not able to show return on investment within at least, if not one, if at least 2 quarters as such. How are companies such as yours thinking about it? I mean, where is AI adoption coming up? Is it more, are you allowing your developer staff to experiment, or is it something that you as leaders are defining what should be done, how much tokens to be used, what kind of governance mechanisms should be used? Thank you so much.
I can talk about what we are doing at Pocket FM, right? So we have a team of around 200 engineers, and as you rightly said, today, I don't know why that number is 95 and not 100. Every engineer is vibe coding. So almost last 2 months, 100% code is AI written. But there is asterisk on top of that, right? It doesn't mean that you can just prompt and be done with it. Engineer still has to understand the feature requirement, needs to understand the design behind it, needs to still validate that the code is doing what it needs to do, and also needs to make sure it is tested thoroughly. So in terms of productivity, while every line of code is written by AI, it is still limited by human cognitive ability. An engineer can't do 10 PRDs or 10 features because it's just humanly impossible to absorb that much. So we are seeing obviously adoption has been big. Productivity gains also have improved. Obviously there is a gain in productivity. What could have taken at least the development step earlier 5 days, today can be done in a day. But to move to the next stage, what we are trying to do is, because as I said, the challenge is human cognitive ability and handovers. So software development lifecycle has these 6 to 7 different steps. It is your idea to research to PRD, design, UI design, development, testing, and production. More individuals or more roles you have in the loop, longer it is going to take. So can we move from the software engineering role to product engineering role, where there are lesser number of people, one person can do more of these steps with the help of AI, because AI brings depth into each of these steps, but if one person can hold all of these together, then you see multi-fold improvement in productivity. That's the direction we are trying to move.
So that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much, panelists, for helping us navigate the entire world of AI.